You're listening to the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy, alternative DVD commentaries. I am Justin, and sitting next to me in our Soulless Minions studios is Josh. Say hello, Josh.
Hello.
Hello. And tonight we're going to be watching 1998's Star Trek Nemesis, which...
That's Star Trek Insurrection.
That's what I meant. Which in the numbers of it would be Star Trek...
9.
Okay. All right, so yes, this is the film immediately following Star Trek First Contact and preceding Star Trek Nemesis. Anyway, so let's go ahead and set up a sync point. That's going to be the first black frame after the Paramount logo has faded to black. So go ahead and get your DVD player synced up to that point. If you're not going to watch the movie in sync with us, then I guess it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to give you a 3, 2, 1 countdown, and we'll start watching the movie. Okay, get your remotes ready. This is for the money. 3, 2, 1, unpause. Paramount Pictures presents.
A Rick Berman production. Jonathon Frakes
film.
What are your impressions on Frakes?
Well, I was just going to say, let's talk about Frakes a little bit. Well, he certainly gave us a good movie with First Contact. This one, we could probably spend the bulk of the movie really trying to figure out what went wrong here.
I've had a different kind of outlook on this movie. Researching it for this commentary, but also upon reading the unpublished book called Fade In, which was written by Michael Piller, which is about the writing and development production of this feature film. And it's a fascinating read. And if you can find it online, you can download it and read it. If you're a Star Trek fan, I highly recommend checking it out. But reading that and learning about the production and the writing development maybe get a deeper appreciation for this movie, even though I've never been incredibly fond of it. But I'm sorry.
Well, I don't think it's a bad movie.
No.
It's just
I never thought that either.
It just doesn't pop.
It doesn't. It doesn't capture you in the same way.
This opening sequence with the credits over the images of the villagers and all of that. Mm-hmm. It's not that it's bad. That there's nothing actually bad about it. It's just, especially with a Star Trek movie, you come to expect a certain thing. And one of those things in this particular instance is the opening score over a Starfield, frankly. I mean, that's what we've done for 8 other movies. And here we are doing it in a different way that, quite frankly, and this is a huge issue with this movie, is that it already feels like a TV movie. This is what a TV show does, or a TV movie. You have the credits over the visual exposition, and that's what we're getting here. Like I said, it's not that it's bad. It's just, at least right now, it's not cinematic. And
well, you're using 2 terms, that I was going to equate with this film quite often: cinematic versus television. And right there, screenplay by Michael Piller. Michael Piller was predominantly a television writer.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing wrong with this movie, but it has that feeling of...
It feels... Again, and this is not a shot. It feels small.
That's what I was just about to say, the same thing. It feels small. And my hopes and expectations were incredibly high because First Contact left me so pumped.
Sure.
It was, people have criticized it for being... The characters were too unlike how they were portrayed in the show. But, whatever. Picard can be different in the films. I mean, he was dealing with his experience with the Borg, and that's something he never recovered from in my mind. So it was okay that he was a bit angry and aggressive in terms of the Borg. That made sense. But that movie felt cinematic. This it didn't have that bang. And I was about to, on my list of notes here, I was going to mention this opening here with the music, and just the very opening nature in itself was just started off on the wrong foot. And it left me with a bad taste in my mouth. especially in regard to what we're seeing right now. And any Star Trek fan worth the salt is going to know they're ripping off themselves right now. They're ripping off Who Watches the Watchers.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm sure it came to your mind too when we saw this.
Oh, of course.
And I'm thinking, we're already ripping off the show? And the movie just started. I don't know, man. I don't know. And this is what they call a duck blind. This procedure they have of looking out, hidden in the rock face, observing. But we're getting introduced to the main villains, the Sona, what their look looks like, and this guy here, and his son. Mm-hmm. He's Sochef. I think the kid's name is Atrim.
I've seen this movie a number of times, and I couldn't have told you until right now what their names were.
Well, the only reason I know their names, it's not because I have the IMDb up. It's because I've been rewatching. Yeah. No, I've been rewatching this, and so and with the subtitles on, and so I've gotten to know their names. But before that, I couldn't remember. But you said you've seen this movie many times, but I'd just like to kind of point out that this is the Star Trek film out of the, I guess you could say 11 now, that I've revisited the least.
Well, I would, for me too, as well. But it's still Star Trek. I've still seen it a number of times.
I have a default setting when it comes to Star Trek. Anything Star Trek, I like just by default. But this movie, I can sit back and watch it, but it just kind of has this kind of bland setting, kind of like non-fat yogurt or something. Just kind of bland. There's no taste to it, no flavor. I mean, look at this set here. It all looks so bland. The way they're dressed, there's no color. They're all wearing browns and light browns.
I know. It's TV is what it is.
Well, this was, like I said, this was written by Michael Piller.
Well, I don't think the writing has anything to do with it.
I think so. He has he writes for television. He did it very well for a number of years. He was
okay.
But when you try to bring that kind of essence,
I'll retract my statement a little bit.
Okay.
I do think there is something in its pacing and or its structure that is very TV like. I think that's something you pick up somewhat more subconsciously. But just on a visual level, it just now when they get up at like this stuff right here,
this looks good.
This looks good. This kind of feels a little more similar.
I like their dress uniforms. They look good.
They do. But even still, something about this feels TV. Not in the look right now. The look feels movie like. But just look at the staging, the structure of the scene. It still feels TV like. This is that quick little intro of hey everybody, how you doing and all that. It just feels TV. They didn't do this sort of thing in the first 6 movies. Just didn't, or if they did, it didn't feel this way. This feels very. I don't even know what the word. It's not expository, although it is, but that's not what I'm looking for.
Kind of
by the numbers, I guess you could say.
Oh, okay. I thought you were. Yeah, you're right. I thought you were going to say like trivial or something, but...
Well, it is that too. Actually, that stuff that in fact, just about everything in this scene is completely irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the plot of the movie, except for what we're later in the scene when he comes in and pops his head in and wants to talk about Data. But really, none of this has anything to do with the movie. The plot of the movie, anyway.
Well, it's just a way to, bring us up to date on the characters. But
I know, but it's just there's ways to do that where it furthers the plot. And this isn't it,
Well, we have to bring in Worf. Here we have Worf. We have to always make an excuse to bring Worf back.
Was it the Manzar colony? No one cares.
Yeah. Well, he literally just put his hand up right there. He's like, okay, I've heard enough.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, you're here. I know. Now, again, it's not that any of this is bad. It just, in this.
I like this. I like this little bit here, although it doesn't have much to do with the plot.
No, it's a fine bit.
I like this, and the look of the aliens, and
sure.
bringing in another alien race into the Federation. It's a good bit. I like it.
Yeah. Again, it's TV where you'll find this a lot if you really rewatch episodes and kind of nitpick them. You'll find that there's scenes like this in episodes that don't really have anything to do with the plot, but that's okay because it's just you're joining them for another day of their lives and their adventures, and that's fine. But with a movie with a finite set of time, you can't really fiddle around with this kind of thing.
And I've been thinking about that a lot. You're trying to figure out what it is. What separates TV writing from a screenplay writing? What is it? Why does this feel so much like a show and not like a movie? This joke here with the Bolian.
See, again, what the heck did this have to do with anything? Nothing.
You know what I think this scene is? I think this is an inside joke. This is a Hollywood joke. Because if you know what that Bolian is saying.
Sure. I get that.
Yeah, he's saying, oh, have you had a chance to read my paper? We met last year. That's just like someone coming up to a director. Hey, did you read my screenplay? That feels kind of like an inside joke. Back to Scream, we have Admiral Doherty on Dougherty on screen. I like his look.
Oh yeah.
I wish they would have given him a better, role, I suppose. More character.
I don't know if I want to address this now, but I don't think he's necessarily the bad guy here.
He's not. I mean,
he's certainly working in a
gray area.
Yeah, let's say that a sort of non-Starfleet way. But his goal is not bad, and the way he's going about it is, while it's shady, it's not really evil. And his attitude towards it, well, I guess we'll deal with that when the scene comes up, is not entirely wrong, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, but we're definitely going to have to address that when it comes up.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're not the only people who have addressed it.
Probably not.
And we're definitely not the only ones to say that this movie feels like a 2-part episode.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, that's what I said. It feels like a TV movie, a Star Trek TV movie.
See, like this little bit, this joke right here, he puts the headdress back on.
Yeah, it's a cute moment. It's fine.
It's cute, funny humor, and I'm thinking if I saw that on the show, like if this was in TNG season 8, this would be a fun episode with little cute moments in it that I'd probably like to go back and rewatch. And so I'm always thinking, why doesn't it work in this movie? What's the difference? I'm not sure. It just doesn't have that feel, It's strange.
All right, well, you work on that thought. I'll just be a second.
Here we have F. Murray Abraham being introduced. He plays the character of Roafo. I mostly know F. Murray Abraham from, the first thing I think of goes back to my early teenage years, I believe, when I saw Last Action Hero, where he played a character named John Practice. And, of course, he's known for his role in Amadeus, I believe, which I think he won an Oscar for. And this actor here, I believe it's Anthony Zerbe, who's playing Admiral Doherty. I know he was in, I believe, the Matrix sequels, which I'm not too familiar with, but I believe he was in them. And now we're going to be getting into the this sequence here with Data. He's firing upon them. This kind of wide range of aliens on this bridge set here kind of takes me back to the series. I believe it's TNG season 6, the episode. Now that I've thought of it, I can't remember what it's called. This is a 2-parter. Gambit, I believe that's called. It's kind of reminding me of the kind of ensemble crew they had in that episode. But that's kind of off topic here. And here we have Geordi here, who's on the bridge.
Working at the helm for no good reason.
Well, that's because Data is
present. By the way, check this out. Fake beard on Riker.
Well, Data isn't there.
No, look at Riker's beard.
That's
it's fake.
Oh, man, you're right. I've never noticed that before.
False beard. There's another scene in the movie, I hope I catch it, where he's got a falsie on again. Yeah, that was obviously a reshoot. Or at least happened after he had shaved the beard and in the context of the movie.
It looked really noticeable. I can't believe I just never saw it before. Well, I was mentioning that the crew kind of assembled on what's his name ship, Ruafo ships kind of reminds me of that kind of crew they had assembled, that kind of odd bag of people on the episode Gambit, part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
A little bit, kind of like Mercenaries. Kind of reminds me of that. This scene here, okay. It says, on the trivia track that this was the first scene filmed, but this is one of the deleted / extended scenes. And you've seen this deleted scene, right? The extended scene?
Yeah.
It kind of has a librarian in it, and they're throwing paper wads. I like it. Maybe you don't, but I like it. And there's actually exposition in that scene that's, I think, crucial to the rest of this story. It mentions more about the Sona and the Baku, important exposition, and it explains why Data was sent. Because we don't get that explanation from anybody. They say that Data was sent as a part of the duck blind because of, quote, environmental concerns.
Hold on a second. Let me cut you off real quick.
Okay.
That guy standing next to Picard, he was in First Contact. He was one of the security guys. I liked him in
the
that.
The Borg have assimilated more than half the ship. Yeah. Yeah, I like that guy. I like him too.
Now this recurring bit that we're having that we're just starting with Worf with the
Jacques Delas.
Yeah, that's TV shit, man.
Again, just like I said, I'd be more pleased with this if this was, broadcast on TV. If I had seen this like TNG season 8, but I'm going off again. I'm repeating myself.
Well, this will happen. We're going to keep pointing out things that make it feel TV-ish. Not that they're bad, just not feature film worthy.
Mm-hmm.
I like the girl though.
Yeah, she's very pretty.
Something about her. See, now the stuff. The overall plot of the Sona, the Baku, and all of that stuff is film worthy, but it's so surrounded and so layered with all these other things that feel smallish, TV-ish, that it's kind of a mess.
Well, you bring up the Sona and Baku. I kind of feel that they're not strong enough as protagonists or antagonists. They're completely kind of underwritten. I felt I really don't get a sense of either or race. Here we have Ruafo playing the villain, and F. Murray Abraham's a great actor, but they don't give him anything to chew on. And I was thinking, well, what about in First Contact? What made the Borg Queen work so much? And I'm thinking, well, Alex Kriega did a good job, but the Borg were an established presence. The Sona are not.
Well, I think that's only part of it. I mean, yes, you and I and Trek fans know the Borg from the show, but people that went in blind to First Contact totally got into it. They totally got it.
Well, not only that, but the Borg are visually interesting and threatening and menacing.
That they are, and the Borg have something built in to their understandability. It takes you about 2 minutes of screen time to understand that they are drones. And in the case of First Contact, there is the one queen. So all of the other Borg you see are inconsequential in terms of personality. They're just muscle. But of course, like you said, they look visually interesting, so it's kind of cool. But the queen is what made that villain work in a feature film. For the show, you could have the drones be the enemies, and that's fine. But for the movie, they needed to put a face on it, so we got the queen. So when we deal with the quote-unquote Borg in First Contact, we're dealing with the queen. And, of course, like you said, she was just phenomenal. She was awesome. In this case, yeah, I see what you're saying, and you're right. The Sona are very bland. Everyone is very bland in this movie. And F. Murray Abraham, that's a shame because the guy is fantastic. You see little bits that he was making it his own, but really the character lacks anything particularly interesting that we as the audience can relate to.
Well, I hate to cut you off. Just to get us back on screen. This is, our first kind of, well, besides the opening action sequence. And from what I've read or what I've heard, this was kind of the first Trek film to use heavy CG. So
sounds about right.
How do you feel the effects are kind of holding up? How do they look to you in this sequence?
In this sequence, they're not so great. I mean, they're okay. They're passable. They're just not stellar. I mean, I hate to keep using the term, but they feel TV-ish. They feel a little cheap. Like I said,
remember, this was back in 1998, so I'm just trying to get you to look at it from that perspective.
Well, I mean, yeah, I get it. I wish I could think of a different word. It's just why are we doing this?
This singing moment? Well, it's, like I said, I've been reading that. So
now, what does this mean
book
to an audience that has not seen this? Nothing.
Well, maybe an audience who had not seen or is not as familiar with Star Trek as we are might find this kind of funny. Because
I don't think they would.
They might not be expecting anything at all. But as I said, I had been rereading that book called Fade In by Michael Piller. And I'd read...
I guess these shots look okay.
I'd read bits and pieces of it before, and it was, like I said, very interesting. But in the intro, he mentions that he had conversation with... what's his name? Rick Berman. About how to proceed with the making of this movie. What's it going to be about? And he and Berman both agreed, well, First Contact was a hit, but it was a big action movie, and we can't out-Borg the Borg, so let's not try. So they decided right then and there to make this a kind of light and fluffy Star Trek 4-esque Star Trek movie. And right there, I mean, maybe that's where it all started with that notion. You can do that fine, but you want to make another Star Trek 4 type film, that's fine, but this is what they came up with, and they wanted that a Fountain of Youth story from the pretty early on. That was pretty much in the script. But and I know Michael Pillars, he's passed away, but he has on the special edition DVD, he has they talked to him briefly in one of those typical EPK interviews, on a DVD. And I like the guy, he seems like a good guy. He really put a lot of effort into this, and especially reading that book, you can tell. And that's one of the things that made me kind of take a fresh look at this movie. And
well, I have skimmed through and read passages of the book you're talking about, and there was one thing that stood out to me, and that was when I don't remember if it was a draft of the script or an edit of the movie. I think it was of the script, but something basically they thought they had it locked, and they brought it, or Michael Piller brought it to Ira Stephen Bear, and in the quote he refers to him as saying that, and Ira took off his glasses, and he never takes off his glasses. And
I remember
he knew that was a sign that he was going to get bad news. I thought that was funny. See, now even this location, it doesn't feel big, it just doesn't. It's small. Even though, essentially First Contact takes place on the Enterprise, which is a set, even though it was a new Enterprise. I mean, the Enterprise is the Enterprise. It takes place in hallways in the bridge. And the rest of it basically takes place in that tiny area with the rocket. But it doesn't feel small. It feels cinematic. This feels
we're starting to sound like a broken record.
I know.
And, I don't know. I don't want to sound too negative, because I'm feeling...
I'm not trying to...
I'm feeling a very kind of negative tone we're bringing to this. And that's not something I like doing when it comes to commentaries. And because so far all the commentaries we've done have been for films that we
all right, well then
really
let's point out something positive. Even though she's somewhat blandish, I still like Donna Murphy's character.
Well, yeah, she's very attractive.
She's got something about her, man. In fact, I don't think the execution of their quote unquote romance was as good as it could have been.
I like that they tried to introduce a romance for Picard.
Mm-hmm.
As I could tell, they may have meant to do with First Contact with him and Lily.
Yeah. See that that felt natural. This one feels a little more forced, but
I like that. I like it when Picard shows emotion, specifically when it comes to love, because you're more vulnerable that way, and Picard ever lets his vulnerability be shown. Especially, I know you're thinking of the episode I'm thinking of from season 6 called Lessons, and he was completely vulnerable, and everybody could tell. He completely let his guard down, and he paid for it in the end. And I enjoy that.
Who wrote First Contact?
I think that was Ron Moore.
Was it?
Yeah, co-written, but I'm not sure who the other writer was. Don't
Braga?
Don't quote me on that. Maybe.
Yeah, it might have been Moore and Braga.
Hey, we just saw that hummingbird.
Yeah,
it's going to come back to play later. She gave him a little look. What do you think of the character of Sochev? Do you think he's a little too counterpoint?
I think he's. Yeah, I think that's a good word for it. I just think he's a by the numbers character that's needed to.
He's a little too Amish like, and every time I speak, I'm going to remind you that I'm Amish. I don't use electricity.
Yeah,
that's what he feels like.
Yeah.
Just a few loose ends to tie up. That's going to come back later.
It just seems to me that if they had,
I noticed. I noticed in the trivia track that little sash that's on his chair.
Yeah,
that was a gift from the Mentox or Mentax. I think that's what they were called, from the episode Who Watches the Watchers.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, ironically enough. So I thought that was.
I didn't know that.
I know you can read that at the trivia track, but I thought that was funny. I thought I'd bring it up to you.
Is it the Mentokens?
Mentokens. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
a gift from them, and yeah, Who Watches the Watchers. So. See, this scene here. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I like it, but there's not enough. I wrote this down on my notes. There's just not enough setup or explanation to what.
That's exactly what I was going to address.
To what the Briar Patch, the effects it has. So these scenes are kind of like, well, this is funny, but why are they acting like this? And by the time we get the explanation, it's very short and to the point, and it's too far after this for it to make an impression on us. Mm-hmm. So this kind of just feels trivial to me.
Well, it does feel true. Are we in Janeway's?
Yeah, we're in the observation lounge on Voyager.
We're in Janeway's office.
No.
Yeah.
Or her office or the observation lounge.
No, her office. That's Janeway's office. That's her desk, and they're sitting in front of her.
Yes. Yes. You're right.
It doesn't matter. No, see, the thing is you. I don't know. I'm trying to think of some sort of reference to the original cast movies. I mean, we know that they were sort of aiming for a Star Trek 4 feel for this. In Star Trek 4, you had Kirk paired up with Spock and all of their stuff, and it did not matter if you had seen 1, 2, and 3. You didn't need to know. I mean, they certainly give you some explanation in the beginning, but you really don't need to know too much about what's going on with Spock. You just know that he's not quite himself, and that's all you really need to know. Even if you're not overly familiar with the character, even character when they pair up Bones and Scotty, somehow those scenes play naturally, and you can come into that as a non-Star Trek person and totally get into it. But the scene we just left with Riker and Troy, you have to know their history for that to mean anything. And if you don't, then it's just a fluff scene.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
And that was something the original movies did very well. I don't know. They didn't give you too much that related to the show, but yet those characters were so. I don't know. Is iconic the right word? That it's just who they are.
They were developed.
But
they were also kind of ingrained into the pop culture of.
That's what I mean by they were iconic. Mm-hmm. You just know who Scotty is.
It's the little pet.
There's too many little things like that pet or whatever, things like that take away from what they could have been spending.
Well,
on character development or things like that.
Not only, I mean, that little bit with his what the trivia track calls his palm pet. Not only that feels a bit extraneous, but this subplot here, as we're seeing Data following the boy, like with the Nemesis subplot, this subplot feels even more extraneous. I just really feel like it's just there to give something for Brent Spiner to kind of chew on, and it's fine by itself. But then again, I go back to what I'm going to mention when we get to a scene with Geordi and his regaining his eyesight. I feel like this has been done before on the show. Data has already done similar things before. It just feels like they're repeating themselves.
Well, you're right. You're right. This thing with Data has just kind of been there, done that. And frankly, it's not even really dealt with so much that it has any role, any effect in the movie. But the stuff with Geordi, on the other hand, with him getting his eyesight back, that brief scene, actually, I really enjoy, and I wish we had seen more of it. Well, and really kind of explored that, because that was interesting.
Well, I was going to bring. I'll bring it up when we get there. We still got a little bit of way to go. How do you feel about the scene in the hot tub here? Do you think it's a little too, pseudo romantic or trying to be?
What I think, I enjoy it. And as a Trek fan who knows the history of Riker and Troy, it's cute and all that. But just in terms of this movie, it comes out of freaking nowhere. And it...
Yeah, and right now, seeing this for the first time, we have no idea what's going on, really. Like, why are they acting this way? And does it have anything to do with the plot? You assume it does, but you're not sure why. And we're about to find the hollow ship here. Data mentioned that he was following some children into the hills near the dam, and that's when he received his injury on his neck, which caused his malfunction. So that's what brings us here. I think you can clearly tell that was his stunt double there from the back. I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about his subplot with the character of Atrim? I believe that's what he's called. The boy.
The boy? Mm-hmm. It's unnecessary. You really kind of hit the nail on the head. It's been done before.
See, there it is. That joke. Won't he rust? I mean, it's not unfunny. It's just...
Well, no, see, that joke alone, the Will he rust, that would have been fine. But we didn't need all of the stuff.
No, but it's like I mentioned, like the difference between screenwriting and television writing. It's kind of funny. It's just not that funny. It's cute. And seeing Data underwater playing with the fish, they're really trying to bring a light tone to this movie. And I recall that this is Data draining the dam, I suppose. I recall when I first saw this, like I said, I was very hyped going into it. And for some reason, I put a lot of blame on Jonathon Frakes, I guess, and very unfairly so. I don't know. I guess I thought as director, he was primarily responsible, and I look back now and I know I was wrong. But,
well, yeah, because
I really think Jonathon Frakes is a very gifted director.
He's a fine director. I don't think he's to blame for this.
And I like him personally. He seems like a really nice person.
Do it. I think.
Here we go. We're not interested in such things. He keeps inserting his Amish state of mind.
I think Star Trek movies are like the Star Wars movies in that the director...
I find it odd that she just kind of sits down and I just want to be like, so you're not going to help us row or anything?
They're like the Star Wars movies where the director is not as in control as he or she would be in other movies. With the exception of, like, say, Star Trek 1, where Robert Wise, when Robert Wise directs your movie...
that's Robert Wise. They knew,
that's
too.
That's what I'm saying. Or when they had Nick Meyer come in, they intentionally gave him the reins because they knew they needed to. But, as the movies went on and you started getting into the Next Generation ones, that's when you start feeling like the producers are directing the movie or the actors are directing the movie. Nothing against Frakes. I just think that he directed the shots, but a lot of the things that the director would be responsible for in other films, he either didn't have much of a say in or was just part of too much of a committee to make it.
Have you listened to the commentary on the Blu-ray disc between Frakes and Curtis?
I don't think I have.
Well, I have, and they recorded that fairly recently, so they're fairly candid during the commentary. And Frakes is more than willing to point out moments in the movie that he feels are not good. Scenes between Data and the child, and scenes involving the character of Sochev when he's talking about we're not interested in technology. He mentions, this is Pillar inserting his politics, or this is so cloying, this scene with the child and the pet, and it's like, I hated this. And it's not the most.
But that gives you the sense that he was doing what he was told, but he was just trying to do it in the best way technically that he knew how.
And I think he did a very good job.
Sure, like I said, technically there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, he was just directing what they gave him or what they let him do.
Mm-hmm.
It's directing with a committee on your shoulder. That's got to be pretty hard to do.
Yeah, I know people like to rate the Star Trek films, and I don't think I could, like rate them in order from 1 to 10 if you're excluding the 2009 Star Trek. And I don't think I can, I don't think that's something I could ever do, because I've seen that on lists on the.
Hey, where's the guy?
Where did he go? Yeah, I'm not
He should have been on the floor.
He should have been. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, the lists. I've noticed, in researching this, a lot of lists I saw put Insurrection really low on the list. Very underrated or underwhelming in terms of how people perceived it. And I just can't do that because, like I said, I like everything Star Trek. I can't rate it like that. It's not fair. Here we go. We're about to see Worf's Gorch.
Yeah.
And I find it kind of funny in the commentary between Curtis and Frakes. Curtis is admitted that she hadn't seen the movie in a while, and she's asking him, what's that on his face? And he says, that's a pimple. And she says, why does he have a pimple? He says, because it's funny. She says, like, really? And he says, like, it's an attempt at humor. It's comic relief in this action movie. It's an attempt at comic relief. And so I just found it funny because it is nice when they're a bit more candid, but not the most in-depth commentary, but it's enjoyable. Here we have Riker, Sans commentary. Sans beard, sorry, for the first time in a while.
I'm letting it spin in my head, and I hate to say it because it sounds like an insult. It's not meant as an insult, but maybe you're right. Maybe because Pillar had just written for television, maybe that's why it feels and is paced the way it is.
Voyager's sickbay again.
Yep.
Well, Voyager's sickbay looks good. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
Well, I mean, just that. I don't know. Maybe he really is the reason why this thing. He wrote it. Why it has so many of these little bits. These little gags.
It just doesn't. It kind of washes over me. It doesn't involve me. It's an odd feeling.
I know.
Like, I don't really pay attention to what they're saying. I guess because I just never feel engaged. And here we're going to have Picard doing his mambo, which there is a really slight kind of, I guess you wouldn't call it slight, but kind of introduction in the beginning of the film when he's getting dressed, getting ready to meet the aliens for their entrance in the Federation. They mention something about dancing, and he mentions, I haven't danced in a while. And, so that's, we're seeing a regression in age, obviously, here, as he's able to dance the mambo. But you see him examining the nape of his neck there, So he's seeing that there's an age. He's regressed in age. So now we're going to get the explanation. He just asked her, how old are you? So now we're going to get the explanation. And
that was a cool little moment. I like that. How old are you?
It was nice. But we're getting this explanation, and it's very expository.
Oh, yeah.
And, Frakes isn't entirely complimentary of this scene. He says, as a lot of directors do, writers. I hate exposition. It's boring to film. It's not very interesting to write. But like I said, it feels like a little too late in the story for us to understand what's been going on with the crew. Why is Geordi having problems with his eyes? Yeah. Why does Worf? Why does he have a pimple? Why did he sleep in that day? Why is Riker and Troy? Why are they suddenly kind of interested in each other again?
Right.
It all just feels a little too late.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be a disconnect in my mind, and I just wouldn't connect the pieces together. Maybe it's because, like I said, I just wasn't engaged enough in the story.
In a lot of ways, I felt like maybe they were trying too hard.
In what sense?
Well, I keep coming back to like all the little gags or whatnot. But I was just thinking to myself in the chronology of the actual number of TNG movies. We're on TNG movie 3, and if you think back to Star Trek 3, then try and think of the kinds of things that the supporting cast did. And by supporting cast, I'm talking about Sulu, Uhura, everyone. They all had at least one moment, but other than that, they just kind of did their thing. And I mean, they were perfectly relevant to the story, but nothing felt forced. When Sulu goes to break out McCoy, it I don't know, it just works. It fits. But whenever they try and give characters in the TNG movies, particularly this one, something to do, something interesting, it comes off as irrelevant.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Can I cut you off for a moment?
Yeah.
You can return to that thought, but as we're in this scene here, this very kind of leisurely dialogue scene between Picard and Anij, and I this is where they're introducing the theme, which I kind of like, where she's mentioning the idea of slowing down time and appreciating the moment, and that's going to come back later, as we'll see with the hummingbird. But I like it. It's a nice touch, the thought that you live life too fast and you don't enjoy the moment. It's again to the theme of youth, and you live life without enjoying the little things. Life is what happens when you're making other plans. That famous quote. And I like it. It's a nice little theme. I wish I wish they would have explored it more. It's just not there enough. There's not enough punch, and I felt it really would have helped enhance the character of Anij and the relationship between her and Picard, and maybe increase their chemistry, because I never really got a strong sense of chemistry between these two actors, although of course Patrick Stewart is excellent as always, and she's just fine. I'm not familiar with her work, but she is just fine. But anyway, you were saying, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I was just trying to rationalize why I have such I don't want to say dislike, but such issues with the little mini moments that they give the various characters in this movie. I mean, think about, we just came away from an expository scene with Picard and the Baku here explaining their shit. Again, think about Star Trek 3, the third movie in the series. Think about the scene when Sarek comes and talks to Kirk. Now, if you don't know Sarek from the show, and really that's not a big deal if you don't, he was in like one episode. It doesn't matter. That scene is basically exposition, but it does not feel like it. It is wholly interesting and extremely dramatic, and that was a character that most non-Star Trek people have no idea who Sarek is. They know who Kirk is, a non-Star Trek person going into a movie, just like a non-Trek person going into this probably knows who Data is and Picard. Some of the other ones may be a little, they know about the guy with the eyes and things like that, but they know nothing about the dynamics of the characters. So if you're going to have scenes like with Riker and Troy, you have to, something has to be instinctual about it. You just have to know what's going on. If you're a non-Star Trek person, you have to write it in that way. I hate to compare it, but the writing in, say, Trek 3, for example, you don't feel that. You just don't. That 5-minute scene with Sarek and Kirk, I don't care who you are, if you know Trek or don't, that is an awesome scene. It's full of exposition, and it's kind of layered and peppered with things that refer to the show or earlier movies, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you don't know. It's so well done and so well written that it just plays.
Well, here's that scene we were mentioning. We have Geordi standing on the hill looking at the sunset. And as I was saying, when we got to this scene, as with Data kind of, dealing with not being human when he in his relationship with the young child, it's something that's been done on the show. And this moment here is something that we've seen before. We've seen Geordi
so.
In The Naked Now. We've seen him pine over his vision. But
that's like the only time that you really got to see him have it.
That's what I mean. I mean, it's so light. And like you said, I would have liked more. I mean, this is kind of interesting. He's getting his eyesight back, and he's able to, see a real sunset for the first time. I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting. Why don't they kind of go into that a little bit more? But that's how I felt about it.
Now, if this scene was to really have some weight, it would have been.
Like he's getting a little teary-eyed there.
Yeah,
it's
and
nice.
This is great. That's fine. You know what really would have been effed up is if towards the end of the movie we see Geordi and he's losing that vision, and that would have been awesome.
That would have been interesting.
But no, we spend too much time doing other piddly stuff that we don't have time to give that moment, because that, when you rewatch this movie, when you see that scene, then it really kind of makes you cry, because you realize he's going to lose it, and that's sad. And then similarly, when Picard makes the choice to basically mutiny and go against everyone, that's a good little moment.
You like that? I never really cared for it.
I like Dougherty's look where he's like, oh shit.
Well, and well, anybody with acne, as I had, ever knows that that's just going to make you think he popped his it. So that's what I think of. That's me. Sorry, that's just my personal history.
Well,
we're coming into the scene here with the Prime Directive argument.
Okay. Well, then I'll save this.
No, we haven't gotten into it yet. Go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, actually, no. This is not the scene about the Prime Directive, is it?
Yes, it is.
Or it is? Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. As far as
yes, I'm acting on orders of the Federation Council. Yeah. How can there be an order about in the Prime Directive? Go ahead. We're here now. Explain. Explain how he just said the Prime Directive does not apply here. These people are not indigenous to this planet.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie was also criticized for this argument that this very fight that the crew has, their insurrection, so to speak, doesn't make any sense, because, well, yeah, what right do they have? And why couldn't they just ask the Baku, hey, do you mind if we move you? They could.
Well, yeah, and the thing is nothing about what they're doing adds up, because, like you said, well, they even say it in the movie that the radiation effects of the something will work. It just won't work fast enough to save or alter the
that's why they have to
the Sona. That's why they're doing it so quickly. But other people, like the Enterprise crew that are down there, are already feeling the effects. So, the Federation is basically willing to do this because of these people that they're in league with. It doesn't make any sense. Just nothing about it makes sense. And like you said, the Baku are good people.
Yeah,
they'll welcome people to that planet.
Well, yeah, that's not. They want. As Admiral Doherty said, we have the planet. It's in Federation space. The Sona have the technology. They want to
take the shit out of the rings.
Yeah, to dissipate the rings, whatever technobabble they call it. That's what they're going to do. So the planet will be uninhabitable.
Right, but the only reason they're doing that is because the Sona can't medically or physically wait for the effects of the planet.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, the Federation wants this technology too.
Well, sure, they would like it, but
yes, they do.
It's just
so I'm not getting a sense of Doherty coming off is in the wrong here. He's defending himself well, I believe.
And, I know he make the reference to them being just a few hundred people?
Yeah, 600 people. And this is, again, like Who Watches the Watchers, this is something that happened in the TV show in the episode Journey's End.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about the exact same situation, a forced relocation. And, Picard was on the fence in that episode too, but he needed to move the Native Americans, as you recall, but they didn't want to leave.
Oh, yeah.
And in the end, the Cardassians decided to let them stay. But it was the same thing. So I just feel like we're kind of retreading here, and we're not getting something kind of fresh and new.
Well, the thing is they're having this argument about morality, but all of it could be avoided if they just asked. The thing is, the Baku are going to find out, assuming the plan went the way Doherty intended.
They're going to find out.
Baku would have found out shortly. So why not just ask them? What are they going to do?
Yeah, I mean, they seem like nice people. I mean,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Would they say no? Yeah, I'm not sure they would.
These are very generous and thoughtful people. You would think they would say, you know what? If you are able to take this stuff out of the rings and whatever and make it so billions of people can benefit from it. Yeah. You know what? We've had our taste of it. We don't own this planet. We just settled here. The goods of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And sure, we'll go. They probably would have, but they were never asked.
Yeah. I guess it's just a plot hole, I suppose. Just not something you're supposed to think of.
This is a redress of a set from Voyager also.
Is it?
Yeah. It's from the episode entitled Crap.
It's called Crap.
No, it's like fifth or sixth season. It's the one where it starts off way in the future, and these people on a planet have found a copy of the Doctor's
Living Witness.
Living Witness. You'll recognize this is the museum.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And this is supposed to be on one of their ships. It doesn't feel like a ship. It feels like a friggin' museum that's been converted. So.
I never really thought about it till, really taking a critical eye, how much set redress you can notice. Just as when I was, very young and I saw Star Trek 6 in the theater, I just didn't see that they had redressed so many Star Trek The Next Generation sets.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at it now, how could I not have noticed that? It's so obvious that the president's office is in 10 forward, but it's a nice reveal shot. Well,
I think it's awfully convenient that
well, of course it's stagey, but it looks cool. The way they all kind of line up. Yeah, it's very stagey, but it looks neat. No uniform, no orders.
Well, you're wearing a uniform. So are you.
We have Gates.
See, this is what I'm talking about. It's just everybody gets a line,
except for Gates McFadden. Oh no, she is going to say something here.
Yeah. See, it's just this is what I mean. They're trying too hard to give everyone like a little bit.
I felt they never gave her enough to do.
Oh well, I mean, I agree, but it's just a reference to the original cast. None of their stuff ever felt forced. In here, it does.
Well, that could just be a difference between different writers and then different actors themselves.
Well, yeah, no, it's the writers. It's I don't in these movies. I feel like they were just trying to be nice to everybody. Everybody gets this, But in the originals, I didn't feel that. When you look at Uhura, she pretty much checks out 20 minutes or so into Star Trek 3.
Captain Zayat, what do you think about that?
Yeah. I think only hardcore Trek nerds even know what that is.
Yeah, it was one of those little moments where I got kind of excited because it's something you'd read about like in a technical manual, like in Star Trek Generations when we saw the saucer land on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, I read about that in the Star Trek manual. You know, that's neat. You know, it's like seeing that. You know, it gets you kind of excited and you feel kind of down on yourself because you think, oh, I'm such a dork. But whatever. I'm sorry. I just I don't mean to cut you off, but I like to direct us back to the screen every now and then. Eliminate them. It's a trailer line. You remember that?
See now, in talking about Ruffo, we have absolutely no idea what his beef is. And
yeah, not yet. He's just
why is he Mr. And even then, even when we find out what his crap is, it's really not like you're like, that's it. You know, this guy's willing to kill everybody, and for what?
Transporter inhibitors.
It's just it's very weak.
Well, as I said, you know, when we started, you know, the Sona race and the Baku race is a whole, you know, themselves separately and as a whole, you know, as we'll find out, are just kind of underwritten, underdeveloped. And I can imagine, like I said, we're repeating ourselves. In a 2-part episode, I can buy this. You know, I can buy that. Because on a week-to-week basis, you don't need your villains or your good aliens to be all that drawn out, not too much, because you're watching it for the crew, you know? But in this sense, it's great. It's supposed to be grand, and we're not getting that. Here we go. About to get an action sequence here. And, you know, one thing I wanted to mention in this movie is the pace. You know? I never felt the pace really ever picks up. You know? Even in a scene like this, in an action scene, their action scenes even feel kind of tepid. Do you kind of get that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just never really, you know, revs up. Even now, you know, when they got the music going and the heart rate going, still just... It doesn't excite me.
No, I don't really feel any tension or real danger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything in TNG and the TNG universe is so sanitary and so kind of perfect that there's just no threat.
Let's go back in time here during this scene here. Now, you and I saw this together in the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
I remember very clearly. We were really excited, and there was barely anybody in the theater, I guess because it was in the middle of the week, and that didn't set my mind off right, because it's a Star Trek movie. The theater should be full. But anyway, how did you feel, you know? Do you remember how you felt as this movie progressed? Like, did you feel like it ever be, like it went off the edge, or was there certain moments where you kind of gave up on it?
I don't think I ever gave up on it because I don't think I was ever really, really in it. You know, I was just being a dutiful Trek fan and going. I wasn't disliking it. I just wasn't, you know, emotionally involved.
Yeah, I guess I could go with you on that one. I kind of had the same thoughts and feelings.
I was just indifferent. I was just like, oh, okay, you know, whatever. You know, when I was watching
this
First
right
Contact,
here, this is the one
enthralled.
This is the one little delivery here that I like. Look in the mirror. The Federation is old, and you see that look on Admiral Dougherty's face, and he does look really old in that moment. He's like, they've been challenged by every major power in the quadrant. You know, this will breathe new life into the Federation. And you've never seen the Federation insulted like that or heard of them being insulted like that. And I kind of liked it. It was nice. It's a nice little moment where
it is.
They kind of, you know, turn the tables on them. You know, oh, you're not so good. You're not such the good little Federation. You know, you're old. You're going to fall apart. You know, you've risen to power. Now you're going to crumble. And you're looking to us for help. You know it and I know it. Kind of liked it. It was nice. Because it's not often that the Federation has a chair pulled out from under them like that.
He's talking about time. We don't have it. Why not?
The Enterprise is on its way back to contact the Federation Council to let them know what's going on here.
Right, okay.
And of course he's, you know, right now he's arguing. He's like, let me send my ships after the Enterprise to stop them. And of course the Admiral doesn't want any bloodshed. And we're going to get the line. Yeah, he says to escort it back. Of course, he means to destroy him.
Right.
But he's going to say, send in your ships.
Send your ships.
Okay, send your ships. My mistake. That's a good trailer moment.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Cinematic. It looks nice.
The music for here that Jerry Goldsmith did for this particular scene, I remember watching that and hearing Planet of the Apes. This
really?
Music is right out of Planet of the Apes.
Well, you know, we haven't mentioned the score yet.
Well, I can tell you it's from the scenes in the beginning of Apes when the three astronauts crash and are basically trekking through the desert to get to the ape city, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're just trekking. This is
trekking as they're doing here.
I know that's Jerry Goldsmith's trekking music. So, it's kind of funny. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Jerry Goldsmith.
Well, you know, you're a very avid score collector, and Jerry Goldsmith is one of your favorite composers.
Oh well, you know, he's probably rounds out the list of most people's top 5 at least. I mean, of course, he's an excellent composer, but at this point in his career,
was this his last movie?
No, he did score Nemesis. I think Nemesis might have been his last.
Do you find this score particularly exceptional in any areas? Any particular moments that stick out?
No, I think the score is a reflection of the movie. It's all just kind of very ho hum by the numbers. At this point in his career, Goldsmith had really started to repeat himself, and that's not uncommon with composers that produce as much work as he does. But you know, I mean, you score based on what you see, and there was nothing terribly inspirational here. I think the opening credits, the opening sequence, was a nice piece of music. It just wasn't. The whole score, I mean, wasn't,
particularly memorable.
Yeah, I mean, the First Contact score was friggin' phenomenal. It was great, but he had real stuff to play to.
Do you think this scene here with Data and the child is more Brent Spiner than Michael Piller? Brent Spiner inserting his, acting weight, so to speak.
Maybe
because just as in Nemesis, it does kind of mirror the plot with Picard, in a way, the idea of youth, and in Nemesis it was, the idea of a twin, of a clone. It kind of mirrors Picard's plot,
right? So
it's kind of the same kind of a notion. And it's something that these movies do that it just bothers me. They just focus on Picard and Data, and I wish they hadn't been that way, but that's the way they were done. I just found it a disservice to the other characters. Here we're going to go here in this scene. This is also another deleted / extended scene on the DVD. Have you had a chance to see it?
I don't remember if I have or not.
I like that little smile he gives her. But this scene continues after the slowing down of the hummingbird, and it continues into a kiss. And the kiss is also in super slow motion. And as it says in one of the interviews on the DVD, it looks great on paper. But visually, it just kind of looked goofy. I have to agree with that. It kind of did. But on paper, it sounds great. But here, she's slowing down time, and they mentioned something about her, working on her, mental abilities, something or other. Do you recall?
No.
Something like that. He says right there, how are you doing this? And I'm asking, how are you doing this? What kind of mental disciplines, that's what she refers to it. Mental disciplines. How were you able to develop this? How are you able to slow down time? It goes into that theme I was bringing up earlier of slowing down time and appreciating the moment. But I can understand these rings keeping you forever youthful, but how are you able to control time in this way? You don't really explain that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if you're really going to analyze it, you would have to realize that she's not literally slowing down time. She's just altering her perception of it.
But she's altering it with Picard.
Well, you see her take his hand. So, yeah, at that point, you kind of almost have to assume that she's got some form of telepathy going on there because...
Oh, so I'm not supposed to take it that literally? That it's actually
No, I don't
happening?
I don't think it's literal. I think it's perceptual. And somehow her holding his hand was able to bring him into that moment with her. It's too much. I know, I agree. It brings up too many questions.
I'm sorry. I mean, this is a little kind of a funny bit, but what is that? Is that a yak in the background? I keep getting distracted by that.
I don't know. Right there?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I have a craving for the blood of a live Kolar beast.
So stupid.
Well, you didn't like that?
No, it's dumb.
Well, it's cute. I wouldn't.
No, it's not.
I wouldn't.
It's bad writing.
I just think you're being a little too. Like I said, I'm not trying to step on this.
I'm not trying to bash the movie, but
I think that's. I don't know. I think dumb is a little too hard. I find it cute, just not.
It makes Data look stupid.
It makes.
He knows what boobs are.
It does to Data. What I felt is going on with the boy. He's retreading the same kind of things he's done before. We've had Data.
You know what it is? Moments like that. You know what bothers me about moments like that? It's
Data has grown past this. He should be aware of these things by now.
Well, you're right. That's what I'm saying. And that was playing to the audience, and that wasn't being a natural moment. Think about James Cameron talking about Terminator 2 and the moments that we have with Schwarzenegger when you, the audience, laugh. Crusher's got no business shooting a gun. She looks ridiculous. But he made the comment that the humor we get from the Terminator is never self-aware. It's always our perception of it. When he gets hit and the glasses are off kilter on his face, we find that funny. When he tried to smile to John and John's like, you look ridiculous, whatever. He was never intentionally trying to be funny. It was just the situation that came off as funny. Whereas that line with Data and the boobs thing, that was Data trying to do something, and it didn't work. It didn't feel natural.
Well, it wasn't Data trying. It was Data once again, kind of regressing back to early Data, say TNG season 1.
I didn't feel
where
that,
he
though.
doesn't understand the situation he's in because he doesn't understand the way humans talk to each other, and it's Data's misconception, his inability to understand the nuances in human speech and what's appropriate and what's not. That's kind of regressing Data. So
I don't think that logic works.
Well, that's how I make it work in my mind.
Oh.
Definitely
That's a cool
feeling
moment.
aggressive tendencies. I'm sorry. What?
Well, that was a cool moment with him hitting it.
Yeah, that was nice. It was like the moment in First Contact when he pulled out his bathlet. Here we have the subspace rip or something, and this is just something it feels very TV. It's very technobabble, something you would hear on the show, It's like, well, what is it that's forming? Okay.
I know that's a problem TNG always had, was too much reliance on that techno crap.
Well, they did have a lot of that, I have to admit. And probably more so than any other series, except maybe Voyager. Voyager did it a lot. DS9, not so much. They were pretty good at it.
Yeah, DS9 wasn't really big into it. But, things like this, there's no tension to this whatsoever. Think about Star Trek 2. When they get to the Mutara Nebula, you get about 30 seconds of Spock explaining just that sensors and crap won't work. Basically, this is going to be a dogfight in space with where you can't see. Basically, it's submarines.
Here we go. We have those stuntmen being tossed around, kind of.
And you know what people know what that means.
Sure. Yeah.
When they go submarines, okay, gotcha. That's it. And you're doing this all in space. And think about that movie. Is there any technical crap after that? Nope. Don't need it. But here, this is all technical shit, and no one cares.
His pattern indicates two-dimensional thinking.
Two-dimensional thinking. Mm-hmm.
Oh, what did he say? Did I miss something?
Oh, we're through running
from these bastards.
bastards.
And now they're
Come on,
in
man.
the cave where they hid from the Silicon Avatar. Yeah. Here we go. This little bit, I felt it was, I don't know. The only reason that thing seems to exist is so he can go after it and be lost.
I know.
It seems very extraneous. They could have
It's bad writing.
saved
man.
money by, writing something else, just a way to get the boy away so Data would be able to go after him and pick him up.
Okay. They're shooting at these caves. They're expecting these things to collapse, right?
They're just trying to open up a hole so they can, beam them out. Because it's the rocks, That's why they were walking along that particular trail.
No,
that's why they're
that.
in this cave. Very much like the Silicon Avatar.
Well, it just seems like the Sona here are could very easily just kill everybody by collapsing these caves accidentally. Ruafo doesn't seem to care. He already gave the order. If anyone interferes, eliminate them. Why don't they just do the stupid thing with the collector and let everyone die?
That's what I kept questioning in my mind when I first saw this. I'm thinking, why are they even bothering? Why?
Well, yeah. The Admiral has already basically told him,
not
go
yet,
ahead
not
and
yet.
destroy
the Admiral
Enterprise.
is still inserting Federation politics.
Yes,
he's
but
still there, but he's bending. He hasn't completely broken yet, and he won't.
He already told him to send your ships to get the Enterprise. He knows.
He didn't
what
necessarily
that means.
give him permission to destroy the Enterprise. Necessarily, he left it. He left it up to Ruafo. He knew that he was giving him a window to do so if it came to that.
Yeah,
but he is still a presence, so that is why they haven't.
See this stuff with the ram scoop. Who cares?
I'm going to use it to shove it down the Sona's throats.
There's absolutely no tension in that. Who know? We don't. What's it? I mean, yes, we know what a ram scoop is, but it's too Trekky.
It's very techie. Yeah,
it's very techie. No, that's not what we want to see. We want to see mano a mano fighting.
Okay, the joystick.
Oh God.
I don't know whose idea was this, and this was one of those putting my hand on my forehead moments in the theater. I'm like, oh boy, oh my God, this is really happening. Did you have that kind of feeling? It just looks.
I seem to remember people laughing.
It looks so silly to me. I don't know.
Well, it does.
It really does. But okay. But yeah, the fact that Admiral Doherty is still alive, that Ruafo hasn't killed him yet, is the only reason why they haven't just gone off and injected their whatever into the rings to dissipate them and forgotten that let's just forget about these people on the planet. Who cares about getting them out? That's the only reason, and it's not really a strong reason either. But that's it. See, he's going back for his palm pet. And that's pretty much the only reason for him existing, I suppose. Here we go. Now we're getting they're the same race. Although we're not supposed to know that yet. Let's see if, the set just looks like
and this part, this is right out of what's the one with Worf's brother?
That could be a number of things.
Yeah, no. Where his brother was against or he was trying to relocate the people because they would have died, so he put them into the holodeck thingy.
Yeah, I can't remember offhand.
But that one guy lost something, so he went back and he found, he saw the walls not working.
Do you mean it's his human brother?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nikolai.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar.
I mean, this whole movie basically took like 3 Trek episodes and mashed them together, and this is what we got. See, now, what I was talking about her actually having when they had that slow down moment, and her perception of time actually is what was happening. That, of course, makes this scene make no sense. So, in as far as her helping him slow things down so she wouldn't die. Kind of silly.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up to you. You know, I was going to wait till we got there, but I was going to say, hey, what about that scene where they slow down time again? Is that not really happening either?
No, what that does is not make sense. So.
Yeah, you know, this set just feels very kind of very reminiscent of the series, you know, this kind of cave that's very looks nice, but it's obviously a set, and again, you know, it's that kind of movie trope or whatever you want to call it. Why is there light inside this cave? Where's the light coming from? Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And every time we're in a cave, there's a cave in.
Help is on the way.
You know, I think this scene would have had more impact. I like it, you know, visually. It looks neat. You know, the way they slow down time together and the heartbeat comes up and the close-ups on their faces here. I like it. It looks nice. But there's no emotional impact for me.
No.
Because their relationship was never developed. It's just not, it wasn't there.
No, it wasn't.
I know it's been sort of implied, sure, but
no, they've been trying. They've been trying too hard. The relationship.
It's not as if I'm saying it's as, in your face as say Attack of the Clones, where we're literally told how we're supposed to feel. You know?
Oh no, I know what you're saying.
Look at that. That looks nice. It's nice.
Oh, it's a cool moment. It's just they're trying too hard. The relationship between Picard and Lily in First Contact felt so natural. This just feels like they're trying to make it.
It felt natural enough that I wanted them to have a relationship.
Yeah. They had chemistry. It worked somehow.
They did. You know, I felt that, you know, these two, maybe they could have something if it wasn't for the whole, you know, you being from the past, me being from the future thing. You're gonna get a lineup here of the crew.
Yeah, the Western moment.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. That was. Is that your rendition of Jerry Goldsmith's piece of music there?
No, that is my
Western music.
What if? Is it Sergio Leone? No. Enrico Morricone.
Yeah, there you go.
If he had scored it. God, I just cannot see Crusher firing or Troy. A good move.
Oh, why not? They can fire a phaser. They're okay with that.
They don't look right.
Troy took her test in that episode, whichever one it was.
This is an example of what I'm talking about, though. It's them trying too hard. It's them being the makers of the movie, trying to get everyone in. And really, why are you going to bring your counselor and your...
So here we go.
Well, the doctor maybe, but...
Yeah, sure. I understand.
That's just them trying too damn hard.
Why are they all dressed the same way? Just something that...
I know, it's boring.
You get nitpicky after a while when you watch a movie over and over again. It's just one of those things. You're like, why do they all have to be in the same color? It's like, do you want me to, not differentiate between the background actors and the main actors? That's the way it seems to me.
Well, they were obviously going for earth tones.
Sure. But it's just a way of it's cobbling them all together.
I know.
Visually. I don't know if it works. Yeah, this is where Doherty's going to be shut down. See, like until now, the Sona have had reason not to commence their full evil ways. You know, that's why they haven't killed anyone yet. So he just said in 6 hours everything will be dead or dying. So he's gonna unleash his injector no matter what now. You know, yeah, they're the same race. See, even now it doesn't. We don't get enough backstory on.
No, we don't.
On Rafo's character to make him much of an interesting villain, really. Other than we know that he and his, second in command
A century ago.
left. Yeah, they left the Baku, and they mutated, and now they're upset about it. They left for reasons that we're not really told, but they left not amicably. They left in anger, and they want to get some type of revenge of some kind, but not really told why. Mm-hmm.
No, I know. It's very okay. So they left.
It's
why are they coming back with such hostility?
Well,
it doesn't make any sense.
We're told there's hostility, but we're not told why. But
yeah, but they just gave us. They left. They tried to take over and they were exiled. First of all, why the hell did they try and take over?
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, that he said they just wanted to leave and be with the Outlanders. Okay, fine. A, why did they try and take over? And B, should they really be surprised that if they were put down, there were so many more of the quote unquote regular Baku? Why this need to kill everybody? It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. He's just bad for the sake of being bad.
Oh yeah, that's definitely that scene from that set from Living Witness. I can see it now.
Oh yeah,
it's a good eye. Did you read that?
Oh no, I spotted that.
I didn't even think about it, but you're right. It's the museum. That's a pretty good episode of Voyager. Not to get off topic, but here we're gonna have Doherty get killed. I thought this was a little too easy. I didn't particularly visually. I don't like this. His death. It doesn't seem kind of glorious enough to me. I wanted something a little bit more. What do you think?
Well, I think actually him being killed in the machine was kind of cool, but
I guess it just doesn't he stretched him to death. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no oomph. There's no bang to it to me. He's sitting there in a dentist chair, and then we kind of fade back, pull back. I don't know. It doesn't seem strong enough to me. It's like I said, even the action scenes in this movie feel a bit tepid, And this kind of cliched line, he won't be joining us for dinner,
Yeah.
Deploy the collector, that's what he calls it, yeah. What do you think of this character, his second in command?
I like him.
He seems a little more interesting because he's in conflict.
Yeah.
He seems more interesting, at least on a surface level, because of that. You can tell he has an inner conflict. And that gives him two sides, as opposed to Roafo, who's just all one side. He's all anger and hostility. And you can tell this character is finding inner demons. So I guess that makes him interesting. A little bit.
I do not like
this chair. I was about to mention. What's with his sofa captain's chair? It's a little odd looking.
It's silly.
It's a little too throne-like,
It just
it is. It looks like
robs it of any seriousness. It's like, what, are you on your couch, man, in your living room?
Yeah, it's like a couch/throne of some kind. Yeah, these effects still look pretty good, I suppose, for being over 10 years old, and for being CG. They're not that bad. I don't think these sails look particularly good, but
no.
But it looks pretty good.
It's okay.
Well, I've seen, special effects lesser than that came out around the same time. So I think it was done decent enough.
Yeah. Picard as an action hero has never been particularly convincing.
Well, that's something that comes up in the beginning of the book that I referenced at the start of the commentary.
Well,
that Picard had, Patrick Stewart had reservations about the early drafts of the script. He wanted Picard to be the quote action hero unquote.
Well, yeah. See, is it Red Letter Media guy or someone that? I remember seeing some sort of online, review of one of the Trek movies. I think it was the First Contact, and the guy made a very good observation. There's two Picards. There's the Picard from the show, and then there's movie Picard, and they are different people.
I think that's Red Letter Media.
Yeah, and he was very right in pointing out that, TV Picard was not a physical fighter.
Yeah, I think he's like, here's TV Picard. Let's call him Larry. I think I think you're right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's just they tried to make Picard into an action hero in these movies, and really Patrick Stewart,
well, that's not the way Picard's
action guy.
Well, that's not the way Picard's character was defined.
No, that's not his character. But
during the interview that I've mentioned, I don't know if I've ever mentioned it during a commentary, the interview with Rick Berman, the 3-hour interview that you can find on the internet, where Roddenberry talked about the development of Picard. He said, well, I want him to be a thinking man, a thinking captain, as opposed to going to fisticuffs, as Kirk would do, which kind of defined his character from the beginning and pretty much throughout the show, although he got a little bit more into the thick of things later on,
Sure, here and there is fine, but, he basically only threw down physically when he really had to.
You're right. He's always been a thinking man, a deliberator, and that's where his strength came from. And I don't mind him being an action hero every now and getting into scuffles. I don't mind that.
In principle, I don't mind it. I just think Patrick Stewart doesn't do action very well. He doesn't look good doing it.
You're okay. You're talking from an actor's.
Yeah, I'm just saying, looking at him on screen, I don't buy him. He's a tremendously talented actor. It's just physically doing things like that, he doesn't look right. In the same way when we see Crusher doing those physical things with the guns and all that, she doesn't look natural. It doesn't work for me.
I suppose. As you're saying that, I'm flashing back to the show and thinking of times when Picard was involved in, action type moments.
Few and far between.
There were some, but they weren't heavy or anything like that. I was thinking.
No, they weren't.
I was thinking of Darmok, where he's fighting that.
Yeah,
apparition
and
type
how
creature.
Quickly paced is that? You don't really see too much. That's why it works. Do not delay the countdown.
Yeah, even this, we're talking over this scene, and that's, I don't know, it's just because by now, this is the third act. This is the third act action sequence, and, I don't know. There's not a whole lot going on. We're not really invested in the situation. Here we just had the light go off. They've just been beamed onto the holoship.
Mm-hmm.
Did they generate that light to cover up the fact that there were no transporter beams?
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Because wouldn't they have seen? I'm not sure. Unless they transported it en masse, and that's why we didn't see individual beams, I guess.
It still seems to me everything would have to be dematerialized, and they would have, especially since we know what beaming looks like, thanks to Barclay's episode.
Yeah, sure.
They would know they've been beamed.
Yeah, what is that episode?
Realm of Fear.
Realm of Fear, yeah. It's good. It's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Wish Barclay made a cameo in this movie, too. Speaking of cameos, wasn't Quark supposed to make a cameo at the end of this?
Yeah, he was. Is that on the deleted scenes? I don't know.
No. But now that I think of it, he's just seeing the holodeck. Now that I think of it, I remember reading somewhere for First Contact that they actually shot a scene with Avery Brooks on Deep Space Nine with Worf leaving with the Defiant.
What? They actually shot it?
Yep.
For this movie?
No, not for this movie. For First Contact, because we were talking about omitted scenes, but that scene was actually filmed, and I think Quark's scene was too. But that's not on the deleted scenes. And
yeah, Quark's was filmed. I know that for this.
Yeah, but
I don't remember seeing anything that said Avery Brooks shot a scene for First Contact that got deleted.
Yeah, it was shot. Is what I read. It was shot, but it was never incorporated into the film.
Oh, how about that?
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that.
See, we're gonna have this moment here where it works in the trailer, but in this movie, it just not as big of an impact. This scream right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is where he screams and then it goes into the explosion and it says Star Trek Insurrection. Yeah. I'm like, ooh, that gave me goosebumps. But Here it's just kind of like, oh, you know, it's kind of like that moment in the Phantom Menace where Obi-Wan Kenobi tosses the droids back in the beginning of the movie with his force push. Right. Like in the trailer, they're like, whoa, that looks really freaking cool. And when you saw the movie, you told me, I was like, well, what about that scene in the trailer? And you're like, oh, well, it just, just kind of happens, and it doesn't really mean anything. You're like, I'm like, oh, but it looks so cool. It's like, yeah, I know, but it doesn't work out that way. And these aren't the same aliens. Who are they? They're not Sona.
Well, that guy is.
Well, he is, but the other guy isn't.
Well, Troy and Riker talked about how these Sona guys, which doesn't make any sense, like somehow conquered other species and turned them into labor classes.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That was part of that.
Which makes no sense.
That must be who they are. Yeah.
Because just how many Sona are there?
But you're right. I forgot. That just came up so long ago in the movie. I hadn't even thought to connect the two. But it comes up so quickly that it's, unless you're really paying attention to what they're saying.
Yeah.
And, that was part of the exposition that they cut out, which I felt they shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like that scene with the librarian?
No.
Oh,
I didn't. I thought it was just completely unnecessary.
I thought since, they were really trying to lighten the tone of this movie, I thought, well, maybe they should have kept that because it kind of worked. I thought it was funny. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Picard gets a good close-up there. Yeah, a lot of people have commented on this set. I think Frakes does too during the commentary. That this obviously looks like blue screen that was never filled in. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, that's what we always said from the get-go. Absolutely, it looks like it.
I think Frakes does say something.
I remember
like that.
seeing or reading an interview a long time ago where I don't know if it was Frakes, but someone made a reference to saying that no, this was intentional. It was just going to be blue, but this doesn't seem right. I think it was just.
I think Frakes does cop to that during the commentary. Like he says something went wrong with the effects, or they didn't look right, so they just left it blue.
That makes far more sense.
I mean, maybe you had that thought. I never did before I was actually. It was brought to my attention.
Oh no, I always thought
I just never thought about it. And it's something that seems so glaringly obvious, you wonder why, at least to me. Yeah, I don't know. I never had a problem with Picard being an action man as he is here. I mean, they have him in his short sleeve shirt to show off the biceps and everything, but I can buy it. It's all right. I don't know why Patrick Stewart want to do something like this.
It's called ego.
I didn't mean in that way, but I mean with his age. I mean, that's not something you see older gentlemen doing that late in their career. I mean, he's been acting for a long time, so why now all of a sudden would he want to, bring action into his repertoire? I'm not really sure.
He said to himself, well, Shatner does it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Shatner did have a little bit of a scuffle in Generations, but I guess Shatner was a little bit more believable in that way.
Doesn't matter. Shatner, yeah.
I guess you're right. I guess maybe Picard or Patrick Stewart just doesn't, he's too Shakespearean, Maybe that's why it's easier to buy William Shatner in a fight scene.
Well, part of it is that it's the actor, but part of it is the character. It's just who Picard is.
Yeah, of course, Kirk would. Yeah,
Kirk is a fucking fighter, man.
Mm-hmm. And it's sad because you have Patrick Stewart, a very respected actor. Shakespeare. Long live the theater, and you have F. Murray Abraham. Amadeus. You have them two. You have the two of them chewing scenes together, and it feels so empty. It just makes me feel a little sad. That's just me, because it seems like it should be so much more. Is he going to say, like, time's up? Yeah. Yeah, I think it was also Red Letter Media that mentioned, isn't it kind of odd that everything in Star Trek has a self-destruct mechanism? Like, why would this thing have a self-destruct on it?
Yeah.
It is a little convenient. This is cool. I like this shot. This looks nice.
Of the Enterprise passing over it?
Yeah. And this is a altered ending here. I'm sure you're aware. Anybody who's listening who is...
Oh, yeah, where they show him regressing.
Yeah. What did you think about that? Did you like it?
I remember reading about it quite a bit before I actually saw it. And when I saw it, wasn't it kind of... It was incomplete, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. They had F. Murray Abraham. And
yeah,
regressed.
Right.
They regressed his makeup. And they used, kind of temporary dissolves. And then they regressed to another actor in the end, to a child. And it was interesting to see. I mean, I can see why they changed it because, like they said, we needed a bang ending, So having that, I guess, was a little soft. But I don't know. I kind of liked it. I would have liked to have seen it scene complete. It's hard to judge, as it is an unfinished sequence. So I can't really say if it would work or not. But
Right.
I don't know. And there we have Worf not acknowledging the fact that he was dating Troy not that long ago. It just always bothered me that he never addressed that in the movies. Is that just me?
Well, what ticks me off is there we see Crusher bringing those two people together. Shouldn't that be Troy? Given that she's the freaking counselor and all that.
I guess they
the hell do I
wanted to give, Gates something to do, I guess.
She got to shoot the gun.
I don't know.
And she, the one person who was hurt, she was not able to help. So,
yeah.
I mean, what the hell is she doing? At least in Trek 3, when they realized Uhura wasn't going to have too much to do, they actually did not put her on the ship.
Well, they gave her a scene, and she was very good in it.
Well, yeah, they gave her a scene. They made her useful, and then they said, okay, we'll catch up with you later.
They gave her a scene with Mr. Excitement, was it?
Mr. Adventure.
Mr. Adventure, I'm sorry. And, in this moment here, doesn't he say the same thing to Commander Darren in Lessons? I have shore leave coming up.
Yeah.
And
he says that to all his women.
But it has impact in Lessons.
It does.
It means something. And you could really felt those two connected. And not so much here, Like when he talked to Commander Darren, he talked to her about his flute. He referenced the inner light, and you felt him letting that guard down, and you really felt her taking it in. They connected in that moment, but I'm sorry. How did you feel about that haystack moment we just passed?
Stupid. A cutesy little moment where at a TV episode it'd be just fine, but I'm thinking...
I don't think Jonathon Frakes said... I don't think he liked it either.
I'm like, we just paid, $10 to go see this in a theater or something, and you're like, really?
That was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad. It's just I don't want to see it in my movie. In an episode, that's fine. That's what episodic television is all about. Moments. This is a movie. It shouldn't be little cutesy moments.
Well, here we go. We're about to exit. Yeah, and it just didn't, when this music comes up at the end of every Star Trek movie, I get that tingling, I feel it brings me back. And I had that with First Contact, when they pan back from Earth after the Vulcans have just met Zefram Cochrane. I'm like, wow, that was a great freaking Star Trek movie. I had so much fun. And when this came up, I didn't feel it, and I guess that's because I just love Star Trek so much. That's why I was so kind of let down, I hate to say, but well, we're into the credits. But, I'd like to talk about the next movie, which we have done a commentary for, Star Trek Nemesis. We did a commentary with commentary track stars. And speaking of Nemesis, Did this movie kind of leave you on the wrong foot that you kind of went into Nemesis expecting too much? Did you feel that way?
I don't think I went into Nemesis expecting too much. I think if anything, I went into it not expecting a whole lot, because this one let me down so much. I think we're seeing two sides of the spectrum, two extremes in terms of how they want to produce those movies. They wanted to go light with this, and they didn't get a good response from people. And then Nemesis, they tried to go too dark, and they didn't get a good response from people. I just get a sense that they were trying too hard in either direction. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, I mean, they really did just try too hard. And I think and I think you really probably start, I think you're right. I think a lot of the problems in this movie basically fall on two different main reasons. One, and I hate to say it because I basically like the guy, Michael Piller, and his writing. And I really think...
Well, yeah, because he wrote some really good episodes of TNG.
Oh, sure, yeah. See, it's not him, not specifically, but I think he was kind of tied into the whole TV feel, and I think that orchestrations by Alexander Courage? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I think the involvement and pressure from at least some of the actors themselves has not helped the series. And
you mean like the too many cooks in the kitchen, as you like to
exactly
to say?
Exactly.
I suppose.
And I think it all just added up.
Well, any other closing thoughts before we leave Star Trek Insurrection?
Well, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Well, as the kind of ninth Star Trek movie, I like it just fine. As I said, I have a default setting. I like anything Star Trek. Even Star Trek Voyager, which people like to not kind of poop on, so to speak. So I like this. Even though I didn't have a whole lot of great things to say about it, I guess. I wasn't trying to be negative. If I did, I'm sorry. It's just this movie just always felt a little kind of flat to me. But I love Star Trek Generation. It was one of my first loves in my life, and I still love it to this day. And I mean, I own this on DVD. I'm watching it right now, so obviously I like it. And I just wish it would have worked out a little bit for us and for the producers, the director, the stars. Yeah, I guess that's just about it. Just wish it would have turned out a little better, but I'll still take it because it's Star Trek. How about you, Justin?
Well, I remember seeing this in the theater with you, and I remember the credits rolling or finishing, and we stood up, and I had a generally positive experience. I mean, like I said, it's not like I hate the movie. I think was it the movie or the trailer? Either way, I remember your comment being this. It was basically this, meh, it was, and that sentiment I think pretty much encapsulates how I feel about the movie. It's just kind of, I'm hardly the first one to say this about this movie. It is one of the best 2-part episodes of TNG. The boiled down to its essentials, the problem with this movie is that it's an episode.
Well, the credits have just ended, but
it doesn't mean you can't listen to it.
I was just letting all of you know who are watching it with us. But yeah, that's a very good point, Justin.
Yeah, it's bottom line. It's an episode. First Contact, even Generations still felt like a movie. It did have some episode-y somewhat bits sprinkled in, but not nearly as bad as this one. First Contact felt like a movie. Nemesis, even though we've got problems with it, still felt like a movie. This one just for some reason had just TV.
Yeah, it's just the
written all over
big
it.
Screen feel versus the small screen feel, I guess. And,
yeah.
But all right, well, I'd just like to mention, I'd like to give a little plug to a podcast that I've been listening to lately, since we're talking about Star Trek. It's called Technologic, where they review Star Trek episodes. It's a really funny show. It's just technologic.com. Check it out. They have a great forum. Their forums are busy. I post on there a lot. And speaking of forums, we also have a forum, soullessminions.yuki.com. Yuki is spelled Y-U-K-U. Please stop by our forums. If you like us, if you listen to us, let us know. We don't get paid to do this. We do this because we enjoy it, but we'd like to know that people are listening and enjoying it. Even if you don't have anything particularly interesting or, nice to say, if you just want to insult us, we want to hear that too. We just
just let us know you listened.
Send us some love. That's why I created the forums. I post on there a lot, keep things up to date. You can drop by and let us know what you're watching or reading or doing, or suggest movies for us to give commentaries on. Anything of the sort. Or you can just comment on our Libsyn page, Libsyn, soullessminions.libsyn.com. But please feel free to stop by the forums. That's why they're there. Send us some love. We need a little bit of love. So
we need it.
But that's all I'd like to say. But if you're looking for a Star Trek fix, definitely check out Technologic. It's a good show. But that's all I have to say. So this is Josh signing off.
And this is Justin. Good night.